Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamunatiravanachari. Yamunatiravanachari. जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय ओं विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्र सदस्य श्रीमद एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। श्रीमद् भागवतम की गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। श्रीमते ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 3, Text 33, the birth of Lord Krishna. Please repeat after me. Yuvam Vai Brahmana Adishtau Praja Sarge Yada Tatah Sanniyamya Indriyagramam Te Pate Paramam Tapah. Yuvang Vai Brahmanadishtau Praja Sarge Yada Tatah Sanniyang Yendriyagramam Te Pate Paramam Tapah. Yuvang Vai Brahmanadishtau Praja Sarge Yada Tatah Sanniyam Yendriyagramam Te Pate Paramam Tapah. Yuvang Vai Brahmanadishtau Praja Sarge Yada Tatah Sanniyang Yendriyagramam Te Pate Paramam Tapah. Pate Paramam Tapah. Yuvang Vai Brahmanadishtau Praja Sarge Yada Tatah Sanniyang Yendriyagramam Te Pate Paramam Tapah. Matajis. Yuvang Vai Brahmanadishtau Praja Sarge Yada Tatah Sanniyang Yendriyagramam Te Pate Paramam Tapah. Yuvam, both of you, Prishni and Sutapa. Why? Indeed, Brahmana Adishtau, ordered by Lord Brahma, who is known as Pitamaha, the father of the Prajapatis. Praja Sarge, in the creation of progeny, Yada, when, Tataha, thereafter, Sanniyamya, keeping under full control, Indriyagramam, the senses, Tepate, underwent, Paramam, very great, Tapaha, austerity. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. When both of you were ordered by Lord Brahma to create progeny, you first underwent severe austerities by controlling your senses. Purport. Here is an instruction about how to use one's senses to create progeny. According to Vedic principles, before creating progeny, one must fully control the senses. This control takes place through the Garbhadhana Samskara. In India, there is a great agitation for birth control in various mechanical ways. But birth cannot be mechanically controlled. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text 9, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Dharshanam. Birth, death, old age and disease are certainly the primary distresses of the material world. People are trying to control birth, but they are not able to control death. And if one cannot control death, one cannot control birth either. In other words, artificially controlling birth is not any more feasible than artificially controlling death. According to Vedic civilization, procreation should not be contrary to religious principles, and then the birth rate will be controlled. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 11, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi. Sex, not contrary to religious principles, is a representation of the Supreme Lord. People should be educated in how to give birth to good children through samskaras, beginning with the Garbhadhana Samskara. Birth should not be controlled by artificial means, for this will lead to a civilization of animals. If one follows religious principles, he automatically practices birth control, because if one is spiritually educated, he knows that the after effects of sex are various types of misery. Bahudukka bhaja. One who is spiritually advanced does not indulge in uncontrolled sex. Therefore, instead of being forced to refrain from sex or refrain from giving birth to many children, people should be spiritually educated, and then birth control will automatically follow. If one is determined to make spiritual advancement, he will not beget a child unless able to make the child a devotee. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Pitana Sasyad, one should not become a father unless one is able to protect his child from Mrityu, the path of birth and death. But where is their education about this? A responsible father never begets children like cats and dogs. Instead of being encouraged to adopt artificial means of birth control, people should be educated in Krishna consciousness, because only then will they understand their responsibility to their children. One can beget children who will be devotees and be taught to turn aside from the path of birth and death, Mrityu Sangsara Vartmani. There is no need of birth control. Rather, one should be encouraged to beget children. Artificial means of birth control have no value. Whether one begets children or does not, a population of men who are like cats and dogs will never make human society happy. It is therefore necessary for people to be educated spiritually, so that instead of begetting children like cats and dogs, they will undergo austerities to produce devotees. This will make their lives successful. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ivam vai Brahmanadhishtau Praja Sarge Yada Tatah Sanniyam Yendriya Gramam Tepate Paramam Tapaha. When both of you were ordered by Lord Brahma to create progeny, you first underwent severe austerities by controlling your senses. So now we are continuing to hear the reply by Lord Sri Krishna after Mother Devaki with great um, reverence and love for the Lord. Both were there. She was very humbly requesting the Lord to not to show his four-handed form, to show himself as a small baby, as a normal human baby, so that Kamsa may consider and then he may not kill Krishna. And we saw the whole prayers. She was exhibiting the mood of Vatsalya Rasa. She was exhibiting as a mother the great affection that she had for Krishna. And we can see Devaki was also many times overpowered by the motherly love over the opulences also. Although there is a mixture of Aishwarya in her rasa, but still, nevertheless, her position is very unique. Now, Krishna was very happy. He was so much satisfied by the prayers of Mother Devaki, and Krishna is actually glorifying his parents now. He's putting them in a very high status. Actually, that is their status. And Krishna is reminding how glorious they are. Specifically in today's verse, we can see Krishna is pointing out that both of you underwent severe austerities by controlling your senses. Through this one simple verse, Krishna is also giving us instruction that one has to engage in tapasya. Control of sense and mind it's mandatory, or it is a prerequisite to make progress in a spiritual path. And we can see here the austerities also that we perform is based on some instruction, not that whimsically we do any activity. Here in this verse, Brahmanadhishtau is mentioned on the order of Lord Brahma. Brahma gave the order to create progeny, and on that order, Sutapa and Devaki, they underwent austerities. Then Srila Prabhupada also points out this. Specifically, this whole purport is based on this particular two words that is mentioned here. Sanniyam Yendriya Gramam. Keeping under full control what? The senses and the mind. So we can see this is one of the important subject matter of the Bhagavad Gita. The entire second chapter is based on that. Several places Krishna is emphasizing about controlling the mind and senses throughout, because this is the whole spiritual culture is based on controlling the mind and senses. Without controlling the mind and senses, one cannot be steadfast in performing any activity, for that matter, let it be even material activity. One needs control of mind and senses. What to speak of realization of that we are not this body, we are spirit, soul, we are eternal servant of Krishna, with focused attention, engaging in the service of Guru and the mission of the Lord. One needs tremendous control over mind and senses. Specifically, Srila Prabhupada is addressing the point. Immediately, he points out that actually the whole science of progeny is the principle of the science of progeny is introduced, or is very clearly as a formula it is given here. So Prabhupada says that how to use one's senses in creating progeny. So Prabhupada points out that one should learn, actually it is a science. Birth control is a science. Giving birth to a child is a science. Specifically, that too for devotees, it's not some whimsical activity simply to satisfy senses. They have a mission, they have a goal, and they fully abide by the orders of the Lord and His pure devotees. So Srila Prabhupada is speaking about the point of Garbhadana Samskara. Nowadays, these kind of samskaras, hardly anybody knows about it. Even in the so-called traditional families also, it is gradually getting lost because of the mass propaganda that is going on in social media, in the internet, so many magazines, so many articles that is being published by so-called modern thinkers. So for them, you should have free thinking, just do what your mind says, just enjoy life. A very foolish proposition. If such kind of an idea, if will make people happy, if they can have a better life, okay, we can think about that. But unfortunately, all their plans are baffled because it is creating such a chaotic situation in the society. That's what the reality is all about. Now, Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain about a very important aspect, that what is the real education? What is the real knowledge? So, as Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text 8 to 12, he points out what is knowledge and what is ignorance. And in pointing out several items of knowledge, Krishna specifically points out how to view this world, how to see things in proper perspective. So everybody should have the knowledge of what is really meant by birth, what is meant by death, why one becomes old, one gets disease. This seems to be a common thing. Birth, death, old age is what is the big thing about it? But nobody thinks about it. Nobody discusses about this important point. Krishna says that Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. So here is a perspective that Krishna is giving. Actually, birth, death, old age, disease, this only gives distress, Krishna says. This is the vision of a sadhu. This is the vision of a devotee. So that's why it's very difficult for people to understand. A devotee does not make a very, a grand celebration of a birthday. Because the devotee's perspective is completely different. He thinks that, yet another birth, another body I have got. So many millions of lifetimes I have not surrendered. Now again, I have got another body. A devotee gets a realization that I need to surrender to the Lord. I need to engage in His service. But on the other hand, a materialist, he just celebrates that day in a very grand fashion. Spending lots and lots of money, having party, drinking, and so many nonsense is happening in the name of birthday. The devotee understands, and then also when on the birthday, he just looks at the calendar and then says, "Oh, now I am 35 years old. Still, I have not completely engaged in the Lord's service. So much time has gone." This is the vision of a devotee. Devotee looks at it like this. On the other hand, he also acknowledges that, okay, it's great that I've got a human form of life. Now I have to use this human form of life in Krishna's service, the best of capacity. Pranair, Arthair, Diya, Vacha, with all my energy, with whatever wealth I have, whatever intelligence I have, with whatever words I can use, everything I have to engage it in Krishna's service. So this is the intelligence of a devotee. So this should be the vision. So Prabhupada here, he goes on to point out that actually people are trying to control birth. Actually, in the whole pulpit is pointing about this, that it's a foolish idea that trying to control birth by artificial means. But here another interesting point Prabhupada is saying that actually you cannot control birth, and then he says that you cannot control death also. And last week we heard so many points in a couple of classes, devotees were trying to explain how the scientists, they are trying to challenge the aging. They are trying so many experiments are going on, wasting thousands and thousands of dollars in the laboratories. And also we heard about their so-called technology of cryonics, by which they can preserve the body, and then by their experiments they can bring the soul back into that body. I remember His Grace Harishauri Prabhu in one of the classes in Mayapur, he said that cryonics, by their technology of cryonics, they keep crying. He said, cryonics, it's called. They just try so much, but they keep crying because, actually they do not know the difference between spirit and matter. How they can bring life from the dead matter, it's not possible. So the effect is that they cry. Anyway, Krishna, so Srila Prabhupada points out here that, Prabhupada says, people are trying to control birth, but they are not able to control death. And if one cannot control death, one cannot control birth either. In other words, artificially controlling birth is not any more feasible than artificially controlling death. Now, this one small verse from the Bhagavad Gita has got a very powerful implication in our life. Now, the whole modern world, they don't believe in reincarnation at all. If you are, once we die, everything is gone, everything is finished, they think. But Krishna says, Jatasya Dhruvor Janma Mritya, Jatasya Dhruvo Mrityur Janma Dhruva Mrityur. Then how does the verse goes? My mind is not working. Dhruvam Janma Mritasya cha Tasmad Apariharyarte Natvam Shochitum Harhasi. So for those who are born, death is for sure, and then for those who die, birth is for sure. So artificially, if you try to stop it, it is not possible. And that's what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out. Now, Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain the point that specifically with respect to birth control, there are in the doctors and the so-called scientists, they are trying so many methodologies by which they can stop birth. They have. I did not have time actually to do little research in trying to find out some information. Maybe someone in some other class it could be a lot of information where the statistics which shows that they are trying with so many artificial birth control methodologies, contraceptions, contraceptive pills, and so many things. But in spite of that, the women become pregnant. And just now Srinivas Krishna Prabhu told me that one of the statistics, it shows that 30% they become pregnant, in spite of trying artificial methodologies. And I just remember quite some time back when they brought up the whole idea of this contraceptions and by which they can try to control birth. There was one medicine called thalidomide, if I'm not wrong. It's called thalidomide. They tried giving these pills. The women started taking this pill, and what happened even after taking that, they became pregnant, and the post effects was abominable. The child that was born, either the hand was not there, the legs were not there, or so many deformities in the bodies. It's a well-known fact. I think probably in 70s, 80s, still that pill is available, that is used for some other purposes also. But there are so many other pills available, and they're thinking that in this way we can control birth. But the whole Vedic approach towards this concept of birth control is completely, that's a proper perspective, that's a proper approach. In fact, if you can see, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that this whole civilization is a civilization of animals, because animals, they do not have any higher purpose in life. They do not know, their consciousness is not so much developed. They do not know the goal of life. Their whole life is simply to satisfy their sense gratification. So when the humans are also leading their life geared in that direction, how they can be happy? They cannot be happy. So they are trying to be happy. They are trying so many artificial means by which they can control birth so that they can enjoy life. But they do not know actually there is no enjoyment. Actually it is suffering. Prabhupada is pointing out immediately, he is quoting Prahlad Maharaj's prayers. He is saying that Bahudukka Bhaja. So just the so-called sexual activity, actually, if it is not done for higher purpose, it only results in frustration. It only results in pain and suffering in this material world. That's the reality. And we also see, because of uncontrolled sense gratification, so many different kinds of diseases. One is affected by different kinds of diseases, and so many health problems. Post effects are so many health problems. So people are not aware of this education. There is so much propaganda, advertisement, so many books are published in the market to enjoy sex and all those ideas. So they are creating some kind of a happy situation in the minds of sense gratifiers that yes, you can enjoy life. We will provide all facilities for you. But the result is that you are cheated. You suffer. And to cover the suffering, you again and again you try so many artificial means to enjoy, but the net result is suffering. So because the modern so-called scientists, the so-called industrialists, the politicians, everyone, they all want to exploit people. They want to exploit people by hook or crook, and then they want to earn money and enjoy. So, those who are ignorant, those who are just blind, they just try to follow the advice of such kind of people and they suffer. But those who are intelligent, they take shelter of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And even among the common people also, that they are, some of them are little intelligent. They're able to see the post effect of all the what the all these modern ideas, and then this artificial birth control, and all these artificial ways of enjoying life, how it is creating so much trouble. Some people are able to see, and all. That's why you see there are some people, they try to take natural life, organic food, and so many other things they are able to see. But although they may not have much information about higher purpose of life, but they can see that somehow this kind of a life is not giving us happiness. Well, if they come in contact with Srila Prabhupada's books or devotees, there may be a great change in their life. So there are some people who are like that. So it's very important for us to preach this message. And you can see the whole modern way of life, it is built on a wrong premise. The whole fundamental ideas are completely wrong. So people think that this whole material world is meant for enjoyment. This is a great misconception. That's why in one letter Srila Prabhupada writes, he just puts it like this: pleasure is a misconception, Prabhupada says. So this is needs to be understood. How pleasure can be a misconception. Everybody is looking for pleasure. Yes, when we simply try to satisfy our senses, such a pleasure is a misconception, because we cannot simply satisfy our senses, because the senses can never get satisfied. It can never get satiated. It has a beginning. The so-called pleasure has a beginning and an end. So, yahi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yone evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. So, Krishna says that when the senses are coming in contact with the sense objects, so there is a kind of a pleasure that is created, but that pleasure has got a beginning and an end. That's where people get frustrated. That's where the conditioned soul gets frustrated. He's looking for some happiness, but he's not getting that happiness. He's disappointed. He's frustrated. So that's why this example is given. So many acharyas also, they give this example of, it's like you are so thirsty, you are caught up in a desert, and then in that whole desert you are so thirsty, you want to quench your thirst, and somebody is giving you one drop of water. Okay, here is one drop of water, now you enjoy. What you can enjoy with one drop of water? That's the kind of pleasure that we have in this material world. So Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that the human form of life, actually, we have a great responsibility in the human form of life. So that's why the point that I was trying to make is that the whole fundamental idea of enjoying this material world is the misconception. So that is why when you read Srila Prabhupada's books, it becomes very clear. Any book you take, Prabhupada, immediately you can just see any small book, any book, always this point will be there. This material world is a temporary place. This place is not the place for gentlemen. The pleasure in the material world is temporary. The human life is not meant for sense gratification. Human life is meant for higher purpose. So that is why this instruction is given by Rishabhadev to his 100 sons. Nayam deho dehabhajam nirloke kashtan kaman harhate vidbujamye tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam shuddhyed yasmad brahma saukyam tam anantam. So he says that, so the dog eaters, the stool eaters, the pigs, they also have sense gratification. So what is a big fuss about it? The dogs have sense gratification, the pigs have sense gratification. But you are also, if you're going to do so much hard work simply for sense gratification, what is the use of such kind of a life? Rather, the austerities, this verse also is mentioned that one has to engage in tapasya, and that tapasya is meant for getting higher pleasure or eternal happiness. Brahma Saukyam, Brahma Anantam. That eternal happiness of Brahma Saukya. That is what the Jiva is hankering for. That eternal relationship with Krishna, that eternal relationship, by developing that eternal relationship and engaging in the Lord's service, one gets that real happiness. That's where the real happiness is actually available. But due to illusion, we are not able to see that. We are covered. We are not able to see that. We are covered by the hopes that is available in the material world. That okay, we are thinking that some sense object will give us pleasure. So, but that's the illusory idea. So when we come to Krishna consciousness, we are educated that this material world is a temporary place. The enjoyment that you derive from the senses in touch with the sense objects, that is also temporary. And the body in which we are residing now, that is also temporary. So it's all going to come to an end. So our real relationship, our real happiness is with the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. In developing relationship with Him. This is real education. So that is why every day when we come in front of Srila Prabhupada during Guru Puja, we sing Chakudan Diloje Janme Janme Prabhu Se. We might not have realized it completely, but at least we are on the right path. We have theoretically got this knowledge. We know that this material world is not the real place. The real pleasure, the real happiness is in Krishna consciousness, is with devotees, is in engaging in blissful service with the devotees. So our whole perspective towards everything in all aspects, the respect to procreation, with the way we eat, the way we sleep, the way we relate with others, everything is completely different. Or we could say that this is the perfect process. The materialists, whatever that they do is completely different because they do not know the signs of Krishna consciousness. They are not educated in the right principles of that to be followed in the life. So here, Srila Prabhupada says again the point of responsibility. What an important point is this. The whole modern life is geared towards irresponsible life. That's why you see, in some 15-20 years back, nobody had this idea of any kind of relationship outside marriage life. You see the Vedic standards, it drives one, even within the married life, for begetting Krishna conscious children, that is the progeny, the relationship between the husband and wife is for that purpose. The progeny for proper progeny. And that whole science is being lost now. So now it has gone to such an extent that you have something called live-in relationship, that you just want to enjoy but don't take responsibility. What a nonsense idea. It's a completely animalistic idea. You just do whatever you want to do, but don't take responsibility. And then now to cover up all those things, all this because these politicians, the so-called scientists, the doctors, everyone, they don't have this whole conception of what is the purpose of human life, the responsibility that comes along with that, and why we have come to this material world. The material world is a place for reformation, this is a place for simply enjoying life like cats and dogs. Since they do not have this conception, what they are trying to do, they are coming up with so many artificial ways by which you can stop birth. Like you don't want children. Okay, here are contraceptives, here are pills. There are so many methodologies you can try enjoying. But the nature has got a different plan. But there is a failure and then you suffer and then children are born. What are you going to do with them? So important, this whole knowledge. So even for devotees, we have to understand it properly. Otherwise, even here, everything will become diluted here also. Somebody will come up with so many compromises. That's okay. Some artificial ways by which you can try to control birth, that's okay. But it's not okay. It is not at all okay. Here, Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain the last paragraph of the purport. He insists how one should be a responsible father and a responsible mother. He points out, Guru Urna, same, the Rishabhadev's teachings. Or I think this is from Prahlad Maharaj's teaching, correct? Prahlad Maharaj says that Guru Urna Sasyat, Swajano na Sasyat, Pitana Sasyat, Swajani na Sasyat. Rishabhadev's. So he says that unless one has to become, there are some leaders who have got great responsibility. Guru has got a great responsibility in delivering his disciples. The father and mother has got a great responsibility in delivering their sons. The devatas or the guardians have got great responsibility in delivering their dependents. Otherwise, don't take the responsibility. This is the injunction of the scriptures. And then Srila Prabhupada is also pointing out that someone gets into the family life. It's not that it's something, now there is a license for enjoying sense gratification. That's not the license. In fact, that's why the whole concept of the Garbhadana Samskara is there. That means it's a responsible life. That means you take the responsibility to beget Krishna conscious children. So unless we learn this science, everything will become diluted. We will not know. And then as Srila Prabhupada points out here, in the end of the purport, he says that whether one begets children or does not, a population of men who are like cats and dogs will never make human society happy. It is therefore necessary for people to be educated spiritually so that instead of begetting children like cats and dogs, they will undergo austerities to produce devotees. This will make their lives successful. And we have a very positive process by which we can accomplish this. The positive process is that both men and women together, they are engaged in Krishna's service throughout the day. And as a result of engaging in Krishna's service, the consciousness is so much elevated. Both husband and wife, both of them are extremely busy in Krishna's service. It could be because it could be household responsibility, it could be a direct service related to Krishna's service, it could be raising the children, it could be taking care of the elders. Specifically, as a householder, so many different responsibilities are there. But he has got a very clear conception. He knows the purpose of life. He knows his responsibilities because he is educated in Krishna consciousness. And he has centered his life on Shravanam and Kirtanam. You remember in one of the purports, the Gita, Prabhupada gives a formula how the family people can also be very much happy. He says that morning and evening, you engage in Kirtan and read from Gita and Bhagavatam. And then whenever you get time, you associate with devotees and engage in service. In this way, you will be Krishna conscious. Prabhupada is giving a very simple formula. And also Prabhupada elsewhere, he just, I think in one of another conversation, he encourages his disciples how you can finish your 16 rounds. He gives a formula of how you chant 4 rounds in the morning and then 4 rounds before lunch and then evening. And then he encourages the devotees how you can complete your 16 rounds. So this family life means it's a great responsibility. And then the father and mother takes responsibility to educate the children also in Krishna consciousness. And the children also get educated, and then the whole spirit of preaching Krishna consciousness is that fire is furthermore kindled. And then we can see in our whole movement, in the whole Krishna conscious movement, starting from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's whole family, there were so many grahasthas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's many followers were grahasthas. In fact, the Krishna conscious movement, the Hare Krishna movement, when it was spread, Srila Prabhupada's many leading disciples, many of them were grahasthas who went to so many different places. And then they started the Krishna conscious centers. And they preached so effectively. And they were very serious in trying to follow the instructions what Srila Prabhupada gave. They were very busy engaging in service, and they were distributing books. They were engaged in deity worship, cooking for the deities. They were very busy arranging so many programs, and themselves they were very, very much preaching also. So we have a very vibrant program by which the whole mind can be engaged, and of course by the powerful process of the Krishna consciousness, which strongly the foundational principles are there in Shravanam and Kirtanam. We should hear every day. We should study Srila Prabhupada's books. We should also preach whatever that we learned, whatever that we heard. We should share it with others. And then the whole spirit is maintained. And then we become very lively. And so in that way we will be able to help others. You see, many people in the modern world, they do not have this idea. One devotee told me when he first read the Brahmacharya and Krishna consciousness, he never knew that. He said that all these artificial ways of trying to control birth. He thought that um, illicit sex means only sex outside marriage life or with others. Even these artificial ways by which you try to control birth, he didn't know that it's an illicit sex. People get educated. People do not know nowadays in the modern, because of so many misconceptions that is being floated around. People get confused. Then also, they do not know that that okay, after initiation, I need to follow all these vows very strictly, because there are some in some circles, the so-called Siksha Guru or the so-called gurus, they have so many things. They things are diluted. That is why we need to hear from Srila Prabhupada. What is his perspective? What is his conception of proper family planning? So all these things has to be followed under the guidance of bona fide devotees, and also one should take guidance from experienced grahasthas, how to follow and how to be Krishna conscious and how to handle the situations. So that's very important. And if we just do that, then one can really be very happy in Krishna consciousness. And also we can give this knowledge, spread this knowledge to so many people. People do not know there are so many people who are suffering and struggling in this material world. And in that way, people will become happy, and so many people will take up to Krishna consciousness. And because our process is not a dry process, Srila Prabhupada many times used to say this. Ours is not we are in our Krishna conscious process. There are so many people who are in family life. There are renunciants. We have people who follow all kinds of process in the sense, and they are in different levels. They all can take to Krishna consciousness. There is no harm. But the principle is that, as Srila Narottama Das Thakur says, Vishaya Chadiya Serase Majiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari. We have to chant Krishna's name simultaneously. We have to control our senses and mind, and that becomes easy by engaging in devotional service. This is the bhakti is so powerful. It helps us to control our senses and mind. On our own, by our own strength, we cannot. It is not possible. But by chanting Krishna's name, by honoring Krishna Prasadam, by associating with devotees, by engaging in their service, then it is possible. And we can see again and again in the Bhagavatam and other scriptures as well, that the whole point of tapasya, controlling the senses and the mind, is being stressed. And we can see also the Lord himself, he gives, when Brahma was engaged in tapasya, he was engaged in controlling his mind and senses. Then after engaging in tapasya for several years, the Lord manifested himself, and then he initiated him. And then the Lord also said that I am very much pleased by your tapasya. And also the tapasya that is being performed should be for the right cause. Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita, what kind of tapasya one should engage in. The tapasya should not, again, people are engaged in tapasya for sense gratification, but that's not going to help anybody. The tapasya should be for a higher goal. The higher goal is to please Krishna and his devotees. Such kind of tapasya one has to take. And by that tapasya, the senses and the mind becomes pacified. Here they say that, here Srila Prabhupada points out that Sutapa and Devaki, they control their senses and mind, and they become very peaceful. And as a result, they were able to, Krishna himself was born to them. So this is an important principle. And so for the mind to be peaceful, one has to control his mind and senses. Otherwise, the mind will never be peaceful. Mind and senses will become agitated, and we will get disturbed. So, and also we can see of all the instructions, the very first instruction, the nectar of instruction that is given by Srila Rupa Goswami, is to control the urges of the mind, control the urges of the senses, control the urges of the tongue, belly, and the genitals. And if one follows these principles, then he is fit enough to initiate disciples all over the world. Vacho vegam, manasaha krodha vegam, jigva vegam, udara upasta vegam, etan vehan yo vishayeta dhiraha, sarvamscha apimang prithivim sashishyat. Easily said, but we have to follow this. And that is why we have got this human form of life. There are prayers and shreyas. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur again and again used to say this. This enjoyment that you get through the contact of the senses of the sense objects, it may appear like very fascinating, very interesting, but it is Chapala Sukha, as Govinda Das in his song, Chapala Sukha Laba Lagire, he says. It's just flickering happiness. It's not going to last. So the more we hear, at least we get to know about that, and then we will try to avoid such situations of flickering happiness, and that becomes easy when we are in the association of devotees. So so that helps us. So by engaging in the service of the Lord, and and also this whole process of engaging in the kirtana, it's a very powerful process. It purifies us, very much purifies our consciousness. Even there are some lower desires, some sinful thoughts, everything is just washed away by the power of the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. And we should throw ourselves to this particular process. Then there is a greater chance for purification. Specifically, when we come in touch with those devotees who are very much fired up and who have selflessly dedicated their service in the Krishna's mission, when we come in association of such pure devotees, we can see such purification happening in our lives. So we see here that Devaki and Sutapa, Krishna glorifies them, and he specifically points out in this verse that Sanniyam Endriya Gramam, you control your senses and mind. So in that way, the Lord is also educating his devotees that yes, control of senses and mind is required. Ultimately, it is Krishna's mercy, no doubt about that. But again, Krishna is also pointing out that we should engage in the culture of the control of the senses and the mind. Krishna says in the Gita, Ragadvesha vimuktaistu vishayan indriyaischaran atmavashyair videyatma prasadam adigachati. Krishna says that one should raga dvesha vimukta, one should control attachment and aversion, and one should follow the regulative principles of freedom. By following the regulative principles, one becomes, this is interesting, no? When Prabhupada's translation says regulative principles of freedom, he says. Then some people, they think that, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. Bhagavad, where is the happiness? But actually, by controlling the senses and mind, and then by taking only prasadam, by engaging dharma viruddha bhuteshu, Krishna says, kamosmi bharatarshava, by just begetting children, Krishna conscious children, one is very happy. One is very peaceful. And the whole Krishna conscious culture, we can see people are very, very satisfied and they are happy. So Krishna says that such a person becomes eligible to get his mercy, he says. Vishaya Atma Vashya Prasadam Adhigachati, he says. One gets the Lord's mercy. So this is our whole science, that by the instructions of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, we follow their instructions to the best of our capacity. Completely depending on the Lord, for Lord and his devotees to follow this instruction. This is our whole process. And in that way, by the mercy of the Guru and his devotees, by the Lord and his devotees, we will be able to cross over this difficult ocean, Bhavasagara. This place is considered to be very difficult to overcome this birth and death. But by the mercy of the Lord and his devotees, we can cross over this. So we'll stop here. And we can see in the upcoming verses, Krishna further points out how they underwent so much difficulties. They practiced, they controlled their senses and mind. In the upcoming verses, Krishna further glorifies their performance of their austerities. We will stop here. Any questions or comments, realizations? Let's go. Hmm. That's okay. Yeah. Panchavarsham graham vrajet. Yeah, the that's what I was just trying to, the whole premise, the whole conception, unless they are this whole idea of why we are in this material world, what is the, why we are here to reform ourselves, not to have this enjoying mentality. This whole, the leaders, they should be educated, they should understand. Then the whole science of even this whole, this marriage is a big science. What age they should get married, what, how they can have a healthy life, everything is a science, but it's all completely being polluted and being just, people are exploited. That is what is happening. One other point I just thought also, this it came to my mind now. Also, so people have the idea that yeah, abortion is that's idea is also not, getting lost. So much of abortion is going on, is happening these days, and also by these artificial means, so-called birth control. This also, it's very sinful, because you are not allowing the soul to enter the body. You're not facilitating that, and it's also again a sin. And there's also people have, we have to openly tell this again, it's again a sinful activity. People do not know about all these things. Maybe more and more this kind of, when Prabhupada books goes out in the public, Prabhupada very openly writes all these things in the book, and people they will wake up, they will think what is reality, and the more they engage, this is a sinful activity, more it's suffering. So yeah, we need to share this knowledge. We need to distribute a lot of books and preach this openly, so the sanity can prevail in the society. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.